and one of the sports is ice skating. That both the figure skate, well, a lot of ice skating, all kinds of ice skating going on in the Winter Olympics. And we want to welcome to our program someone who knows a lot about this sport, and that's Lacy Marsh. Lacy is with us. She's got a book called Godly and Girly: Your Life in a Crazy, Messy, Confusing World, and it's published by uh, Concordia Publishing, and she joins us now. Lacy, this is Tim with Ray, and thanks for being on with us.
Oh, thank you both for having me.
So where do you live?
I currently live in Minnesota, but I'm from Montana originally.
From Montana, moved to Minnesota. Okay, wonderful. Well, tell us about, give us an overview of, your book, Godly and Girly, and then we'll get into ice skating here in a few minutes.
Yeah. So my book is really written for young girls, anywhere from 15 on up, and was intended to kind of transcend even into adult and middle-aged women. And I used my skating story as kind of an example into magnifying the truths that God teaches us versus the lies that the world gives us in the messages of our culture. And I just found that my skating career really portrayed those lies in a big way, and I think it was easier for people to see those lies within the sport of figure skating, and then connect that to what our culture is telling us for the everyday life.
So, what level of ice skating are you talking about? Figure skating?
Yeah,
Is
so
that what you
figure
do?
skating is the overall, that's the overall sport, and then there are disciplines within figure skating. So there's freestyle. That's what most people are familiar with. It's when ladies and men are competing, and they have jumps and spins and footwork. And then you have pairs, which is a man and a woman, and that's also a form of freestyle that includes lifts over the head and some throws. And then you have ice
Yeah.
dance, which I'm a dancer. And ice dance is based off of ballroom dances that were adapted to the ice, and it became an Olympic sport in the 1970s. And it involves no jumps. There are some spins, but mostly it's based on footwork and edge work and dance, bringing the music to life for the
So,
audience.
what level did you rise to? Were you?
In figure skating, it's a very complicated sport. So in each of our disciplines, we have different tests, and you have to achieve the top level in each test range. So I have what's called a double gold medal because I achieved the highest test in moves in the field and in ice dance. So it's pretty common for figure skaters growing up in training to achieve some levels within those ranges. And then I spent 6 years looking for an ice dancing partner in order to compete, with my long-term goal being to compete internationally and hopefully the Olympics. I never did find a partner, was searching all that time and training with many different amazing coaches and got to skate in a professional show. But the partner never materialized, and so neither did the Olympics.
Lacy, one of the questions I guess that we all would have is, as you watch the Winter Olympics, what did you think about what did you think of the performance of Merrill Davis and Charlie White, who ended up winning, I believe, the first gold medal for the U.S. ever in ice dancing?
Yep, that's true.
And tell us then about your ministry, which is called Ice for Christ. It kind of goes along with the book a little bit. How you've moved from the focus on ice dancing and opened up this ministry and that led to the book.
Yeah. Ice for Christ was a vision the Lord had been developing for a while on me, and kind of came to fruition about 3 or 4 years ago. I had just finished my partner search and decided to go back to skate in a professional show for a season, And God had really put it on my heart to lay down my dream of the Olympics. It had started to consume me, and it became all about me. I thought I was doing it for God, and it really became about myself. So I went back to the show and found that culture within the ice show is extremely detrimental as well. It's not a very healthy environment, and skating isn't developed in a way that it can be an artistic and in-depth sort of art. A lot of times in shows it can be very, showgirly. And so I walked away from the show and came home to Montana to coach, and really felt like there was no place for me within the skating world because of those things. And so I decided that if there wasn't a place, then I should make one. So Ice for Christ was founded as a professional performance company and teaching outreach. So we're kind of still on the foundations of building it, but my long-term goal is to have on-ice dance companies that are faith-based, that give skaters an avenue to go to and to have a legit career after they're done competing, or if they don't want to skate in a typical show, that they can kind of train as a dancer does and go and perform in a company. So that's the long-term goal, as well as hosting online classes and hosting camps around the country. So that's our vision, and we're kind of at the headwaters of it right now.
Well, wonderful concept, wonderful idea, and I believe all of it's going to come to pass. Tell us about your book, Godly and Girly. That's a terrific title. What does it mean?
Thank you. The book was such a blessing. Concordia Publishing House contacted me. I had written to them before for some daily devotions and children's messages, and they saw my website in Ice for Christ, my ministry, and asked me if I would write a book for young girls. And it was ironic because that is, the desire on my heart has been to minister to young girls, and skating really gives me an amazing platform and way into the lives of these individual girls I get to work with on a daily basis as a coach. Mm-hmm. So the book is really about, things we struggle with in life and the way our culture presents things as normal to us, and how through my skating journey I had to have my eyes opened by the Lord that those things weren't normal, that those weren't his truths, and I was being held captive by the messages of the world and trying to conform to them and still trying to honor Christ at the same time. And it was creating this conflict within me. And some of the things we explore in the book are body image. That's a huge one in skating, and it's a huge one in our culture. And I think within skating it's even more magnified, that the average person can look in from the outside and be like, oh, I understand that the message is you need a perfect body, and perfection is what we are always trying to attain to get on top of the podium, as opposed to the message of God that he has conquered the battle for our bodies, and our beauty doesn't depend on our perfection. And also in the book we talk about relationships and how to go about a dating relationship, how to prepare for marriage, and why we long for things as girls, and how we can lay those at the heart of Christ, and also to have a Hannah heart, like Hannah desired something so strongly, and it wasn't wrong for her to desire that, but she desired God above everything else, and that desire was so tied into her God, and just seeing how God brought that out in a brilliant picture of Samuel being in the line of the lineage of Christ. So we talk about that, and we also talk about our pains and our sorrows and broken dreams, and also our lists of life. I definitely had a list for my life, right? I was going to be Olympic champion, and I wanted to be a wife. And I found out that, my list of life, I couldn't check everything off. It wasn't going to happen. And when that happened, I felt like my life was pointless. I had no identity, and what was I living for if those things weren't going to come about as I saw that they should. So it's a lot about everyday struggles that every girl and woman and person goes through, and how Christ has come and spoken a message of truth that changes all of that.
Lacy, we're about out of time. We're talking to Lacy Grace Marsh, Marsh. What's the name of the book? Where can folks get it? What's your website?
Yeah, it's Godly and Girly, Your Life in a Crazy, Messy, Confusing World. And you can find it on cph.org. And my ministry website is www.ice4christ.com.
Okay, wonderful. So you have a ministry to the frozen chosen.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'm feeling pretty frozen.
I've been
here in
waiting to use that
Minnesota,
I thought about that 10 minutes ago, and I've been waiting to use it. I wanted to use that for you.
Awesome.
Okay. So yeah, hey, you feel free to use that if you want to, maybe frozenchosen.com, something like that if you want to,
Sure.
Anyway, hey, Lacy, hey, we wish you the best with your ministry and your ice skating, and we appreciate you being on with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Lacy.